Hey Mallory, it's good to hear you again.
Hello, how are you today?
I am doing well. This is Mallory Corlett from Office Accomplice. Corrine, I'm sorry I forgot to ask where you were from and what you were working on. I just happen to know Mallory. She's from DC. Alrighty, Mallory. You ready to do this?
I'm ready to do this.
Alrighty. So, I'm pausing that so that I'm full screen and you can actually read the board behind me. Give me an annual goal.
An annual goal, develop a sales and marketing plan for the year.
So, develop I was going to say S&M plan, but I'm going to write marketing, sales and marketing plan just so we're all on the same tune of music. And we're going to say calendar year 2017?
Yes.
All right. So calendar year 2017. Okay. Um, Looking at that, that is probably something closer to like 2 quarters, unless well, maybe let's see. Um,
Not the way I'm going to do it.
Not the way you're going to do it. Okay.
Yeah.
Walk me through. Let's chunk that down to quarterly level objectives. So what you got for me, Mallory?
Okay, so redesign and relaunch a website.
Oh, there we go. Um,
Does it feel bigger already?
yep.
Um,
Well, because it's not develop anymore, it's actually implement.
okay, develop
See what
and
I mean?
implement a sales marketing plan.
All right. So we know from experience, right, Mallory, that this redesigning and relaunching a website, we need to plan for 6 months for that, right?
Correct.
Okay, good. I was hoping we wouldn't have to go to a cage match on this now. Okay, what else we have?
No, not at all. Um, I think I'm going to need to start a blog.
Is that part of the same process, or do you think it's get it all set up
That's
there and
in
then
my
actually
mind,
start?
it's a separate process.
Okay.
Because the blog is gonna, um, I mean, it'll be built into the website, obviously. Like, well, that'll be functionally where it could live, but designing the process of how are we coming up with ideas, who is writing it, how does it get written, how often are we going to publish, all of that, which to me is separate from the actual
You're right.
website redesign.
And so we need to develop a content marketing strategy that's probably different than just a website strategy, right?
Correct.
So before we can start, well, you don't have to do it that way. You can just start blogging. Your mileage may vary with the success of that. You're on the phone, right, Mallory? So you can't actually see me.
I can see you.
Oh, okay.
I
It
am
shows
on the
that you're on the
phone
phone.
and watching you simultaneously.
Oh, wow. You got that whole multitasking thing down. So develop a content marketing strategy. How long do you think that's going to take you to do?
I think it'll take a full quarter
Okay.
just to develop the strategy. Obviously, then implementation will need to happen on a regular basis.
All right. So that's 1 quarter. Um, I'm going to, Mallory, you've worked with me before, so you know I love the word kickoff, right? Um, because kicking off a new thing like blogging um, requires a lot of focus to get done, and that's at least a quarterly level project to really kick it off, to get in a groove, to figure out that wait a second, posting 3 times a week is way too much. Posting 2 times a week is way too much. One time is right, or whatever it is for you, right? So doing that work, that requires a good solid quarter to do. What else do you have?
Um, well, so that's really kind of the marketing piece of it, but then there's that whole sales word. And so coming up with, where am I going to be networking? Who am I going to be strategically going after for sales?
So create proactive sales strategy.
Yes.
That's one quarter. I'm jumping a little bit ahead, but if we were to jump down to like the monthly level, it would be spending a month to really figure out what you're selling and how to talk about it. Second month might be developing the sales kit, right? That goes with that. The third month would be sending that sales kit to people who are already referring and see if it resonates and jives, so on and so forth. So that's just on the collateral aspect of things. Then there's the researching, spending a month to research the events, right? Figuring out which ones you're going to go to, actually scheduling them, all those types of things become monthly level projects.
Right.
Alrighty. Now we're not doing sequencing right now because we might say the sequence of this is off, right? In different ways, but we're just getting down what are the types of projects we're going to do. What else do you have for me, Mallory?
I mean, I think those are the big ones.
All right, so I put content marketing. I'm going to put blogging here. Like, obviously, there's a higher level marketing strategy where you're thinking about what you're going to do with social media, things like that, which will require perhaps their own thing. That, like, which of the channels are you going to start with? What does that project look like? So on and so forth, right?
And you could definitely develop a social media strategy. We don't have one currently.
What we would probably do is sync these up, right? So you're like, someone's like, wait a second, she's got more quarterly objectives than she has quarters in a year. But here's how that would look. Mallory, we're going to jump right into the planners real quick, right? And so if we were to say this was your one goal, and like, implement, let's see, Office Accomplished 2.0 marketing strategy. Just saying that you're up-leveling thing, right? I'm giving it a funny name. And so what we can say here is that we have begin developing website. And we can have in this corner, like, launch website.
Carly, can you show your screen?
Oh, I'm not showing my screen. Thanks, Shannon.
You bet.
All right, are you guys seeing my screen now?
Mhm.
Okay. And so what we would look at on something like this when we go to the sequencing, so remember the brainstorming? I mentioned that we needed a separate brainstorming tool. That's what we were doing there. Now we get to the fun of sequencing, right? And so while that website's being developed, right, she can be developing her, let's just call it a blogging strategy. I know I'm more specific, right, there with content marketing or more general, but she said blogging, so we're going to go there. Develop, not Facebook, social media strategy. Right, so she can do those over the quarters, but notice that it's starting to stretch here. We would probably want to slide, Mallory, I would constrain you to 3 things, and I would say because the blogging strategy and the social media strategy and the website are all tied together, it's like, okay, we can do those, because remember, we have other business objectives that we're trying to hit here too, right? I would probably put the proactive sales strategy in, develop a proactive sales strategy here. And then this would let us create basically all that marketing stuff. And then as that marketing stuff is starting to get pushed out, which is what a website actually is, a website is the invocation of your marketing strategy. You can start developing this proactive sales strategy. So about the time this website launches, you can implement or kick off content marketing or kick off blogging and social media. You can implement proactive sales strategy, since you would have a website already ready to go, right, that you can refer people back to, so on and so forth. And that's how we could start lining things up, right? Does that make sense, Mallory?
Yes.
Obviously, Mallory's seen another tool called the quarterly planning wheel that I'll show at another point, but too many tools, guys. So, and you would see, just like what we did with Corleen, we would scroll down and we would say, okay, we already had all those others filled out, so it really is a cut and copy affair, really is a cut and copy affair from here. Let me see if it's going to let me do it. I'm just going to make it easy for this particular call and not screw something up because I got like 8 screens going, y'all. Does not take much for me to fail on this one, right? So we would just port those over, and then we would start looking at this. Now, obviously, Mallory would want to do this sooner because she's Mallory, so she would be looking at the planners the half-year planners that we've updated for this year. But you can see how we would port that, and then we'd say, okay, what can we do if, with just this one quarterly objective? What does that look like in January? Maybe that's just picking one channel or to decide which channels are the ones that are the best for you, right? That's a month 1. Month 2 is to figure out what assets and how you're going to engage on those channels. And then month 3 would be to start developing those assets for those channels so you know what it looks like. So that's all the profiles, that's some of the content, so on and so forth, right? So it's basically, when you look at any type of project like this, you always have this vet / landscape aspect of things. Then you have the focus on, so vet lands, sorry, I'm talking about too many things. So social media channels, develop channel specific strategies, and then you would be create assets for chosen channels. And you're like, that's not going to take a month. It will totally take a month to go through and do all those, because remember, you're not doing this in the context, like this is not the only thing that Mallory is doing. This is one of the things that Mallory is doing. If this was the only thing that Mallory is doing, she might say, you know what, I can get all of this done in a week because I can fuel all of my creative blocks for these projects rather than having to spread my 10 creative blocks around 5 different projects. And then, just for the benefit of everyone, we would scroll in, and then we would go down to the, we would come down here, we would fill in what the objectives are. Now, I need to pause here. The reason we have the higher level view on all these is because we want you to be able to look at, to have enough information about the higher level perspective on the planner itself that you don't have to wonder what you're trying to do. And then when you get down to monthly objectives, you can just refer back to what you've already done. And as new projects start coming up, as new things start coming up, you can get them in the weeks. And so you can go through there, you can fill it out for the week, and then you can go through for the different weekly planners to figure out how to go one level down. Typically, what I would say on this one is when you're doing annual level planning, you really only want to go down to annual level to maybe the monthly level, because let's get real. If you like make the plan for next August and print it out and pretend like that was going to be it, like you're going to be way off. You just need to have a broad stroke of what you're working on, and that's where the annual and quarterly momentum planners come in, because they let you see the shape of the year, the shape of the quarter. And then when you're actually getting closer to that, that's when you hit your planning window, which is different than your visioning window. You got the visioning window, which is, again, just seeing where you're going. The planning window is when you start saying, I'm going to do it this week, I'm going to do it that week, so on and so forth. Does that make sense, Mallory?
Yes.
Do you have any questions for me?
So my visioning window is, let's say I'm really planning for calendar year 2017. My visioning window is, say, in December, and then I would do my planning window also in December for Q1, but I wouldn't touch Q2 until, say, March-ish.
Well, you can,
right?
What I would generally say is that I advise people to have the visioning window to be about 6 months, right? And so if you were planning because we're about to roll, or we're not about to roll, well, October is the start of quarter 4, right? And so let's say September would be a great time to get into planning out quarter 4 of this year, right? Because you can see it a lot better. And you would just go out to the monthly level, and you might just do the first 6 weeks. So you might do October and November, knowing that things are going to lift and shift for second half of November, second half of December. but you're also visioning out in quarter one of the following year and saying, okay, if I do this, that's going to get me there, so on and so forth, right? It takes a lot of confidence in yourself and in your team to really be able to plan out, 4 quarters in advance, or even sometimes to see out 4 quarters in advance. Does that help,
Okay.
Mallory?
Yes.
So it's really one of those things to where I was reading Peter Drucker a few years ago, and this stood out to me. It's like as you develop more capacity within yourself as a creative person or as an entrepreneur or as an executive, you actually are able to extend how long now is in your reality, right? So if you're just getting started, like now is this week or maybe this month, right? That's as far as your now goes. If you've been at it for a few years, your now might be a whole quarter. If you've been at it longer and you've got good confidence in yourself and your team, now might be this year, it might be the next 2 or 3 years. But our ability to see that and see how it goes, that takes experience, that takes insight, and it takes, just developing a skill. So just something to think about there. Start with 6 months for a sort of planning window, and then see if you can go out. But you have to wait until you get there to see how close your vision was to what actually happened.